Hi, my name is Wales, and for the past few days I've been trying my hand at scenario creation. Quick disclaimer, this is not meant to be a guide. I'm not an experienced scenario creator at all. This is just my attempt at documenting my process of familiarizing myself with the tools in the map creator and the scenario editor. I will admit that I didn't look too hard, but when I tried searching for information about scenario creation, there wasn't much that came up. On YouTube there was one result from 3 years ago. All the other videos that came up were about editing scenarios and how to choose the right scenarios for you. There's some helpful information on the KovaaK wiki, but all the pages regarding scenario creation haven't been updated since 2022. Even the section that covers game objects doesn't mention 2 of the 7 objects, spawn volume and water, so I feel like there's a lot of missing information there. I could have tried asking questions in KovaaK related Discord servers or to proficient scenario creators, but I hate social interaction, and I also wouldn't want to waste anyone's time when I'm not sure that I will be fully committing to this endeavor, so I decided to do it on my own. While I was working on the scenarios I wanted to create, I hit a wall, and I decided that in order to accurately create the scenarios I was envisioning, I would need a better understanding of what I was working with. Because of this, I decided to give myself a challenge, to create my own versions of classic or generic scenario types from scratch, from maps to weapons, bots, profiles, everything. The easiest starting place would be static. The targets don't move, it's pretty simple. So I decided I would make a one-wall scenario, a wide wall, maybe curved like Aimer's Wide Wall 2 targets or Voltaic Season 5 wide wall, and a pressure scenario. Then for dynamic, something that moves in the X and Y axes like a posse. Okay, originally I recorded myself going through each category, but that just ended up being 2 minutes of me naming random scenarios basically. So here's the checklist. The left is the scenarios I want to make, the right are some notes or goals I have for each category. After the first 2 static scenarios are done, I plan on attempting a pressure aiming sun and a raw smoothness sun, something like centering no strafes. My assumption is that this will be the easiest way to introduce myself to moving bots, as they both move in straight lines with no acceleration or direction changes. Also, I don't plan on uploading any of the scenarios on this list, they're all purely for my own learning. Now that my goal has been established, let's get into some scenario creation. Very quickly, I know I said this wasn't going to be a guide, but just this morning I was a part of 2 separate conversations about scenario editing, and they both quickly pointed out the lack of resources that I mentioned earlier. It also seems pretty agreed upon that most scenario creators got to where they are by just messing around in the editor, so I'll go over the basics that I know so you can hopefully start your own journeys. First off, if you click the edit dropdown in the top left, you can see your keybinds. Look through these and change them as you see fit, play around a bit and find out which ones are the most helpful to you. To move and look around, just hold right mouse as you perform your normal inputs. You can also use E and Q to move up or down. In the lower menu, you can find the default shapes, materials, props, and the game components. I haven't really looked into a lot of these, so I won't say too much about them. When you place an object, you can change its look by dragging a material onto it, or the corresponding face in the properties menu. You can also toggle this entire UI with spacebar if it's a bit too much to look at. You can freely drag your object around the XY plane, and by holding Alt, you can move it along the Z axis as well. By holding Shift and left click on a face, you can freely scale it in that direction. Another way to transform objects is by toggling gizmos, either by pressing this button in the toolbar or Q on your keyboard. From there you have access to the translation, rotation, and scale gizmos, with the respective keybinds W, E, and R. For the most precise adjustments, you can return to the properties window and manually set values, so you don't have to freehand your placements. If it keeps skipping over your desired number, try lowering this increment value on the toolbar. You can do this either manually or with the plus and minus keys. Also from this window, you can select a brush type to change the collision properties. Here's a brief look at the wiki describing the different choices. If you want to transform multiple objects at once, you can hold Control as you select objects, and from there you can also group them for an easier multi-selection in the future. And once you're ready for testing, you can choose to spawn in normally, or at your current camera position. This can be helpful if you want to take a look at your scenario from a different angle. With that out of the way, I'll get back to the original video. At the time I'm recording this, I've actually already checked the first item off the list, a one-wall static scenario. So I'll very briefly reenact the process and summarize what I learned from it. I started off with a floor, made a couple walls, duplicated a couple more walls, and then smacked a roof on top of that. Once I had my room, I put a spawn point for the player on one wall and a spawn volume on the opposite wall. I created profiles and bots, added them to the main and challenge tabs, and bam, one playable scenario. Oh. At first I thought maybe my player needed a clipping platform to stand on, After a quick look at other scenarios, I realized that all I had to do was reduce the profile's gravity scale to 0. And now we have a playable 1 wall 7 target scenario. If you're wondering why I chose 7 targets, 1 and 7 are just the numbers in my full username, there's no deeper reasoning than that. I also had a problem where my targets wouldn't respawn immediately, and then would all respawn at the same time once the final target was eliminated. It took me a while to figure out why this was happening, but it was because I had the bot profile spawn group set to 2 instead of 0. That's all I've got for now. This video was also supposed to include my wide wall send, but I never got started on that because I spent too much time putting this together. Hopefully the impromptu tutorial in the middle was enough to make up for that. I'll also link the KovaaK wiki in the description, as well as the video by Blaze33. The latter part of their video talks about movement and dodge, which I didn't cover at all. Thanks for sticking around, and if you don't see another video from me, it means I couldn't get the bots to move and I gave up.